What up, is Marcus with Dynasty Football Dads, where we do daily Dynasty football. Now, this is an important draft class for tight ends. Last year was majority a bust, and majority we knew going into that tight end class that the tight ends weren't going to be very good. Now, this class has three amazing tight ends, and one that is maybe the best tight end prospect that we've seen in the last 5-10 years. Maybe somebody that can catapult themselves into the top 5 or the top 3 tight end category. We're talking in less than 3 years, in less than 3 years time. And we are talking, these are important players. But number 5 and 4, these might switch. So the 5 and 4 are not concrete, but they're the best of the, I guess, tier 3 tight ends. So we're going to start off with Charlie Kohler of Iowa State. And he's 6'6", 257 pounds, so he has good size, and all these tight ends have good size, especially now these days. A lot of them are 6'5" and above, and 250 pounds and above usually. So he's dropped only 2 of 62 catchable targets. And when we're looking at tight ends that we want to take gambles on, we want to look at tight ends that are going to be heavily into the receiving game. And I don't really care about blocking. I mean, there's some really good tight ends that are primarily blockers and really struggle at pass catching. Those are good for NFL teams. They're not good for fantasy football. I don't want those. I don't want the Drew Samples of the world and stuff like that. I don't care for that. I'd rather get the guy that is used as a split wide receiver sometimes, which Charlie Kohler is. He's used as a split wide receiver. He's very versatile. Being 6'6", 257, he is a little bit slimmer, but he is a very poor run blocker, and he does have some poor separation as well when it comes against smaller competition like corners. He does have a hard time separating, and he's not super fast. So we're talking 4.8s for Charlie Kohler, maybe even a little bit slower than that. He's a gamble at this point. He does have strong hands, and he does catch the ball very well with his hands too. He's not a body catcher. But that's Charlie Kohler of Iowa State. I don't really want to go any further than that because 5 and 4, again, maybe off this list. And the only reason I'm doing top 5 is because I did that for wide receivers and running backs. Or else realistically, I would probably just do a top 3 until draft comes around. But I'll give you an extra bonus too here to look at, just in case you're bored of watching the top 3. Hunter Long of Boston College is my tight end 4. He's not even in the first 2 rounds of my mock draft, and he's 6'5", 243. Again, runs in the low 4.7. So we're talking about guys that are slightly slower, and because of that, they do have low athleticism, low explosiveness, and they do have some separation issues, especially when they're put up against guys that are either physical or guys that are just quick, that keep up with them and they just are glued onto them. But he, again, like I said, runs in the low 4.7s. He had 57 catches for 785 yards last year. So, I mean, realistically, that's a pretty good line. And if he could translate even that to the NFL, which I know is a huge jump and a huge kind of probably not going to happen, but I mean, Hunter Long is probably going to be the tight end 4. I mean, he might even be slightly in his tier alone, and then maybe Charlie Kohler's in tier 4. But what it is. Hunter Long used to be a quarterback. He has high IQ, body control, and he has pretty good route running when it comes to being a tight end. He has some little nuances that gets him open versus some of the competition that I watched at least. And so now we go into the top 3. The top 3 is what you guys have been waiting for. Number 3, which is most people's number 2, but he's my number 3 still. It's Brevin Jordan out of Miami. I mean, he had 1,300 yards and 13 TDs in 3 years. I mean, he was a high-end recruited prospect. My biggest comparison to him is probably Evan Ingram now these days. And Evan Ingram has his moments where he looks amazing as a tight end, and there's other moments where he just struggles, and a lot of times this Brevin Jordan is very inconsistent, and he's an average blocker as well. He also does struggle on some of his route running, but he's gotten better through that from his freshman to junior year, so that's something that he at least knows how to improve on. So if you can improve on those things and continue to improve on those things, that's going to be a huge positive for the next step. But he is a run after the catch. I mean, he is nasty in space. I mean, we were talking about when he gets in space, it is hard to bring him down. He is a tank. He looks like a linebacker running out there. I mean, he's a solid built guy. So Brevin Jordan, Miami tight end, number 3. And then number 2, these two are in a tier with himself, or with each other, I should say. So depending on landing position and stuff like that, they could switch because if one goes to Dallas and the other one goes to the Jets. I'm going to take the Dallas tight end over the Jets tight end. That's what's going to happen. If one of them goes to Arizona or another good needy place, or if they go to Houston and they actually have Deshaun Watson, which I don't think will happen, but that's a different story for a different time. Pat Freiermuth, 6'5", 250 pounds. He did end his season on surgery, which unfortunately that happens, but shoulder injury. I know that somebody even commented and said I thought he was a pretty good blocker, but that is probably his one weakness, is he is not an amazing blocker. He's not a bad blocker. He just is an average blocker when it comes into a tight end. And when we're talking about the elite of college, you expect him to be usually really good at a lot of things, and just blocking seems to be what he lacks at times. But, I mean, he had 4 games this last year, 310 yards and a touchdown on 23 catches. He is 6'5", 250 pounds, and we know Penn State tight ends have really good reputation, not repetition. Different words, means different things. Reputation. Penn State has good reputation with tight ends going on to the next level, but he is the Gronk type. I see him as that awesome third down, crucial situations in Penn State. He delivered time after time after time, getting open, finding good little routes, finding good spots in the zone, and just settling and catching and being very, very dependable. And that's exactly what you want in a tight end, and that's exactly why he's my number 2 tight end. And now number 1, which was everyone's been waiting for, and it's kind of an obvious one for this year, but we have to see how high this guy ends up going in regular drafts. He's going to be number 1 when it comes to tight ends. His name is Kyle Pitts. He's out of Florida. I mean, so another Florida. We got Miami, Brevin Jordan, and now we got Florida, Kyle Pitts. Both the Miami tight ends. There's kind of like a competition, like who's the better tight end. And Kyle Pitts, I think, is easily the number 1. I've seen him number 2 and 3 on very select few analysts and I guess fantasy football experts. But I mean, he's 6'6", 245. He dominated this last year in a shortened span. He had 770 yards and 12 touchdowns. I made a separate video of him of where I would take him in Superflex and in rookie and just regular standard rookie drafts. So you can just find that in the 2021 profiles. We also went through a little bit of video tape of watching him doing some of these like routes that were just crazy, and how he's going to be probably unguardable when it comes to the next level. I mean, there's just linebackers and safeties that are just going to have a problem with him, and I really hope he finds a good team to land on. But 7 for 129 and touchdown versus Alabama, which is again a really good stat for an Alabama team that dominated most teams. So Kyle Pitts, and realistically, we were looking at Kyle Pitts, and I'm looking at tight ends in the NFL right now, and he's already a top 10 tight end, dynasty value. He hasn't even played a snap yet, and he's top 10. I mean, we could be talking this same time next year, it's February now, February of 2022, and we could be saying, well, Kyle Pitts is better than Mark Andrews, better than TJ Hawkinson. Maybe he's a top 3, 4, 5 tight end. That is the ability that Kyle Pitts has. He just has so many tools. I mean, we were talking the best draft that we've had in tight ends in a while was Fant Hawkinson. A lot of people, including myself, are probably putting Kyle Pitts ahead of him as an overall just dominant force. Kyle Pitts looks like Darren Waller, plays like Darren Waller, is also not 28 years old like Darren Waller. He is a young guy that has a lot of potential and can really start off the gate strong. So this is Marcus with Daily Dynasty Football. Well, pretty much Daily Dynasty Football, but Dynasty Football Dads, where we do Daily Dynasty Football. And if you really like this video, please subscribe. Pass the word on. We've done pretty well so far the first couple weeks, so we're just going to continue to making daily videos to see where this goes. All right, take care. See you next day.